Adolf Hitler, 1889 to 1945. We had to know he was going to be on this list, guys. The Chancellor of Germany from 1933 to 1945, and Führer of the Party, Adolf Hitler was perhaps the most intelligent, creative, and brutal dictators of them all. He was largely responsible for the Holocaust and the Second World War. He believed that Jews were the root cause of all problems and set out to eliminate them. His actions resulted in the death of over 50 million people. Hitler committed in his bunker on the 30th of April 1945. Hard to believe that he was once a talented artist and part of a bohemian community. Yeah, I mean, this was, like getting people like that, guys, like obviously, we've studied Adolf Hitler ever since that happened, because even all of the stuff he did was so brutal. But as another human being, you're like, how did that happen? How did we let that happen, and how can we stop that from ever happening again? Craziness, crazy. Joseph Stalin, 1878 to 1953. Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin was dictator of the Soviet Union from 1922 till his death in 1953. As a young man, he was a robber and assassin. Oh wow, I didn't know that. For almost 30 years, he reigned with terror and violence in the Soviet Union. His decisions led to a famine that killed millions. Forget enemies, he even killed families of people who were fond of him. Under his rule, he easily killed over 20 million people. He once said, "One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is simply a statistic." Wow. Ironically, he was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 1945 and 1948. He died of a stroke in 1953. I was not aware that Stalin was an assassin and a robber going up. That's something that I had no idea about. Also, I was familiar with that quote, "One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is simply a statistic." And no, man, that's just not cool, man. That whole quotation right there is you're kidding. You can't be serious right now. I don't know, man. These people, how did they exist? Explain this to me, seriously, in the comments. How did these people exist? I want to know your thoughts on this. Vlad the Impaler, 1431 to 1476 or 77. Vlad the Impaler was also known as Vlad Dracula. The character of Dracula was loosely based on Vlad due to his sadistic personality and cruel acts done to the people of Wallachia, where he reigned as prince 3 times between 1448 to 1462 and killed about 20% of the population. He impaled the victims through the butts till the stake came out of the mouth. Oh my gosh. A German pamphlet once read, "He roasted whom he fed to their mothers, and he cut off the breasts of women and forced their husbands to eat them. After that, he had them all impaled." My gosh, I had no idea. I actually had no idea. I'd heard of the name Vlad the Impaler before, but this, that is brutal. That is sadistic. That is so, I can't even wrap my brain around having the thought to do something like that. That is just so insane. Insane. How on earth did this guy go those many years being prince without getting assassinated himself? I am surprised that there was not a serious uprising to oust this guy. I don't know. Pol Pot, 1925 to 1998. Pol Pot was the leader of the Cambodian revolutionary group, the Khmer Rouge, which had orchestrated the Cambodian genocide. Pol Pot believed in destroying the Cambodian civilization in order to start a new regime and usher in a new age. He's probably the only man in history who ordered mass genocide on his own country. During his reign as prime minister from 1976 to 1979, his policies led to the death of around 2 million people, which was 25% of the entire population. He liked to keep the skulls of people he had killed. He died of natural causes. Man, that one is one that I am well aware of. The whole Vlad the Impaler, I was not aware of that, but yeah, it's all these guys, all these people that get way too much power for their own good and just completely well, actually, that's a question for you. Do you think that getting the power is what causes them to lose their minds and do just ridiculous stuff like this? Or were they always like that from birth and they just happened to fall into a spot where they had the power to carry out these acts? Comment that down below, I want to know. Shiro Ishii. Surgeon General Shiro Ishii was a Japanese microbiologist, army medical officer, and war criminal who served as the director of Unit 731, a biological warfare unit of the Imperial Japanese Army. Ishii led the development and application of biological weapons at Units 731 and Manchukuo during the Second Sino-Japanese War from 1937 to 1945, including the bubonic plague attacks at Chinese cities of Changde and Ningbo, and planned the Operation Cherry Blossoms at night biological attack against the United States. Ishii and his colleagues also engaged in human experimentation, resulting in the deaths of over 10,000 people, most of them civilians or prisoners of war. They were later granted immunity in the International Military Tribunal for the Far East by the United States government in exchange for information and research for the US biological warfare program. In his last years, Ishii could not speak clearly. He was uncomfortable and on pain medication and spoke in a harsh voice. He died on the 9th of October 1959 from cancer at the age of 67 at a hospital in Shinjuku, Tokyo. According to his daughter, Ishii converted to Catholicism shortly before his death. You know what's kind of crazy there is, like, the United States literally pardoned this guy and said, like, it's all good, man, like, don't worry about all the like tens of thousands of people that you killed if you tell us how you killed them, so then we can work on how to do that. Like, that is just like so messed up to me. Obviously I do not know the full story there, guys, but like the fact that if you just give us your information on how you like literally killed these people, it's good. That's kind of crazy. Dennis Rader. Dennis Lynn Rader, born in March 9th on 1945, is an American serial killer known as BTK. An abbreviation he gave himself for Bind, Torture, Kill. The BTK Strangler or the BTK Killer. Between 1974 and 1991, Rader killed 10 people in Wichita and Park City, Kansas, and sent taunting letters to the police and newspapers describing the details of his crimes. After a decade-long hiatus, Rader resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and subsequent guilty plea. He's serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Prospect Township, Butler County, Kansas. Yo, is this guy straight up like he got away with it and was like, no, you know what, like I want notoriety, I want to get caught. And a lot of times you find like people like this, like they want to get caught, they want, like in their sick, sadistic mind, it's like they want the notoriety of like people to know that they were responsible for like this horrible, atrocious stuff. It's honestly insane in my opinion. Heinrich Himmler, born in 1900 and died in 1945. He was the head of the SS and the brain behind the final solution to the Jewish question, that is the extermination of all Jews in Europe. Himmler had ordered the killing of about 6 million Jews, 2 to 5 LAC Russians, and many other groups that the Nazis believed were unworthy of living. It's believed, not verified, that he had furniture made from the bones and skins of Jewish victims. He committed suicide and is buried at an undisclosed location. That is just so sick, man. That is like, it's like, that's just so messed up. Like, obviously it's not confirmed, but like, you killed over 6 million, you killed multiple millions of people, like you were responsible for that, and like, you just so, like, that is just so beyond the realm of thinking that I could ever find myself in. I don't even know how to like answer that. Like, that's just, well, yeah, you know, like, yeah, that's what my answer is. Like a guttural, go away. Ridiculous. Saddam Hussein, 1937 to 2006. He was the dictator of Iraq from 1979 to 2003. During his reign, he authorized countless attacks on people. His policies made way for the death of not less than 2 million people. He ordered chemical attacks, eye-gouging beatings, and severe shocks on people. He also recorded several tortures and deaths to watch them later. Saddam was found guilty of crimes against humanity and hanged in 2006. Wow, yeah, another one of these guys who got way too much power, and either his mind was already gone before he got there or lost his mind due to the power, and then like literally recorded deaths to watch them later, because apparently he is proud of that or he likes that. That is just so messed up in my opinion. I cannot believe that these were real human beings. Idi Amin, 1952 to 2003. Idi Amin, who was the chief of army staff, had taken control of Uganda while President Obote had gone to Singapore to attend a meeting. He promised to bring prosperity to Uganda, but a week later he declared himself president of Uganda. As dictator, he came to be known as the Butcher of Uganda. He killed people by feeding them to crocodiles, claimed he was a cannibal, one of his wives, and rearranged her limbs. He killed and tortured around 500,000 people between 1971 to 1979 as ruler. He died of natural causes. Man, It is literally, like, what time is it right now, Chris? Like 9:45, 10 in the morning? This is not the way to start a day, guys. This is insane that I'm like he one of his wives. Like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, your brain does not belong on the freaking human planet. Leopold II of Belgium, 1835 to 1909. When king, he ruled over the Congo Free State, which was approximately 76 times the size of Belgium. He made the entire world believe that he was going to help Congo. But under his regime, between 1885 to 1908, the country was subjected to a reign of terror. Over 500,000 people died of diseases, and many died of starvation as well. He killed over 10 million Congolese, which was 50% of the population of Congo. All this just to gain money and more power. Money and power were not meant for it, guys. That's what I've learned here. All these people, what they have in common: way too much money, way too much power, and again, either they were messed up to begin with, or that completely screwed their brains up, and like, this is just, it's too much. It's too much. Anyways, folks, I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I will catch you in the next one. Whoa. This, I'm gonna butcher this, Chris, what is that? Laryngeal?